in residency training, you're not making a tremendous amount of money. I think when I started out, we were making, I don't know, maybe $34,000 a year. And this was before these idiotic residency work hours, this 80-hour work week nonsense. So, we were working 100 to 110 hours a week, making $30-something thousand a year.
Wow.
So, what if you have a family during that time frame? So it creates a lot of financial stress and strain. So, there's the deferred compensation aspect. Yeah, we have the high earning potential, but it's delayed by several years, and in many cases, some cases, a decade. I looked at many of my non-medical friends, went into law, business, et cetera, and they were living the life of Raleigh. And many of them were making six figures, maybe after getting an MBA or spending 3 years in law school. Mm-hmm. So as physicians in general, surgeons in particular, you have a high earning potential, but it is delayed. There's a significant amount of delayed gratification.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable, real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. Today, I'm joined by Dr. L Pettiford, a leading thoracic surgeon with nearly 30 years of experience. We dive into the financial realities of being a high-income physician, the dangers of lifestyle creep, and why doctors need to think differently about wealth building. Here we go. Brian, welcome to the show. Man, how is it going? So you're in New Orleans, right?
Correct.
Crazy. So we're recording this in the beginning of February here. Just had the Super Bowl. Don't tell me about it. I can't stay up late these days, so I only watched the first half. I don't know what happened, but how does that affect you? And does it affect the hospital at all? How far out away from you from all of that chaos that's going on?
Yeah, well, the Super Bowl obviously was yesterday. Leading into the Super Bowl, it was misery. A lot of road closures in preparation for the event. So it from getting from point A to point B and just kind of affecting our activities of daily living. I couldn't wait for the Super Bowl to come and go.
Yeah.
And besides, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I could have cared less. It was nice to see Jalen Hurts win.
Yeah, awesome.
Dismissed as a quarterback, so it was good to see him come out.
Yeah. He was he was Ohio, right?
No.
What,
you mean in college?
Yeah.
Oh, no. He started at Alabama.
Alabama, that's it.
Yeah, kind of replaced by Tua in the middle of a national championship game. And I guess, in hindsight's 2020, and obviously it was the right call because Tua threw the game-winning touchdown, but poetic justice the following year in the SEC championship against Georgia, it was abundantly clear that Georgia was going to win, and Tua gets hurt, and lo and behold, Jalen Hurts comes in. He saves the day.
Yeah.
And ends up transferring to Oklahoma University and kind of got more finely tuned / polished under Lincoln Riley, and was able to get drafted. The Philadelphia Eagles, I think they drafted him, and a lot of people question, even leading into the Super Bowl, whether or not he had the wherewithal to lead as a quarterback. And I think the naysayers probably have a lot of egg on their faces.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's cool to see that, and kind of hopefully the city settling down just a little bit for you. I'm sure there was some additional chaos there in the first of the year with the tragic events that happened in addition to leading up to that. Yeah, it's just, what is it? Thoracic. Okay, so you've got that journey so far in thoracic, and we're talking, you've been, 20, 30 years of experience already, right?
I've been in practice for coming up on 22 years. When you
Wow.
add my training in, it's been 30 years.
Wow. Well, congratulations on that. What has your journey been like so far in medicine?
It's been for the most part great. I feel fortunate. I had impeccable training at the University of Pittsburgh. I feel a deep level of indebtedness to the University of Pittsburgh for my medical education. I got my educational foundation at Morehouse College, and I am equally indebted to Morehouse for the confidence that they instilled in me, and I carried that with me to the University of Pittsburgh. I have been around long enough to kind of see the transformation of medicine. I think it's certainly been corporatized, and it's certainly kind of forced physicians to become better stewards when it comes to the financial aspect of medicine. On the one hand, but on the other hand, I think it's kind of taken out some of the fun and some of the more congenial and humanistic reasons why many of us chose to go into medicine. I didn't go into medicine to kind of worry about the bottom line. I went into medicine because I wanted to provide someone with tangible improvement. And so kind of balancing those two has been a challenge. And quite frankly, the increased corporatization, if you will, of medicine kind of leaves a lot of us bewildered on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of touch on that often here as well, too. Especially we've got some guests that are in the private world, and then, obviously some on the other side. And then just not only the financial piece of that, Brian, but the stress that weighs in on that, being creating this machine and just being a part of this machine where, like you said, is taking that personal a personal connection sometimes out of it when you're like that. I also want to talk on the financial piece of this, because surgeons have some of the highest earning potential in medicine, yet still struggle with financial planning. How have you approached your wealth building throughout your career?
Yeah. Well, before I get into all the details with it, I think that there is a myth, and I saw it with my family. I think that there's this pervasive myth that the minute day one when you graduate medical school, you're making six figures. It can't be anything farther from the truth. I trained 7.5 years after graduating medical school.
Wow.
And I actually lucked out. I should have trained for a total of 9 to 10 years. Someone dropped out of the program, and I was able to bypass going into the lab for 2 years. But bottom line is that unless you go to a state school where you get state tuition, certainly at a lower rate, you're going to incur a tremendous amount of debt. So many of my classmates at Pitt, for example, and this was back in the early 90s, at the end of your matriculation, you have what we call an exit interview with the financial aid office. Some of my classmates walked out in tears. Many of them were thinking out loud, how am I going to be able to have a family, afford a house, when I have been at an institution where the tuition alone was $39,000 and some change? And again, that was in the early 90s. I graduated in 1996. So some of our classmates went into the military, and the military paid for their medical education. But on match day, when you find out where you're going to go for residency training, they had a lot of long faces because they were going to be told, in some cases, what specialty they were going to go into. If the military did not have a need for plastic surgeons, you wanted to become a plastic surgeon, well, you were out of luck. You had to go ahead, spend your time in the military, and then later apply for plastics residency. So in residency training, you're not making a tremendous amount of money. I think when I started out, we were making, maybe $33,000, $34,000 a year. And this was before these idiotic residency work hours, this 80-hour work week nonsense. So, we were working 100 to 110 hours a week, making $30-something thousand a year.
Wow.
So, and what if you have a family during that time frame? So it creates a lot of financial stress and strain.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's the deferred compensation aspect. Yeah, we have the high earning potential, but it's delayed by several years, and in some cases, a decade.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at many of my non-medical friends, went into law, business, et cetera, and they were living the life of Raleigh. And many of them were making six figures, maybe after getting an MBA or spending 3 years in law school.
Mm-hmm.
So as physicians in general, surgeons in particular, you have a high earning potential, but it is delayed. There's a significant amount of delayed gratification.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes that could even kind of boomerang back because you have delayed that gratification so long. And then once the income does start happening, I mean, what's it like when that income does come in? You go from, whether it's a residency into attending, and that's when it changes, right, Brian? And that's what happens in your mindset when the income, you're like, whoa. I'm not used to this. Is there a risk of falling into the trend of doing what another doctor does, or trying to have the car another doctor has, or have the house that another doctor has, because now you think that you're making the money?
Yeah, there's certainly that temptation out there. The late great Biggie Smalls. There was a song where he said, "More money, more problems," and I think he was spot on. You make more money. You start to have a family. For example, I live in New Orleans. Unfortunately, due to a myriad of factors, the public school system, leaves a lot to be desired. So you are pretty much obligated, if you have the wherewithal, to send your patients to private school. Well, private schools aren't free.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect. You've been many folks. You go to medical school in one city, you have to go to residency in another city, and then for fellowship, you have to go to a different place. So there's a lot of moving around, not quite as much as the military, but you still move around a lot. So a lot of folks engage in like apartment living. So it's not like you buy a house and you certainly don't have enough time to build equity in a house when you know that, okay, after this 5-year residency, I'm going to have to pick up and move.
Yeah.
So you don't really necessarily have the ability to build equity into anything other than maybe taking out a life insurance policy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What advice
over time gives you cash value?
What advice would you give younger physicians kind of in that transition now, maybe making those geographical jumps and struggling with that delayed income power too?
You have to crawl before you walk. Some things are unavoidable. You just focus on your training. Obviously you have to take care of your finances, but first and foremost, focus on your training, get impeccable training. That way, when you do finish, you will be highly sought after, and you will kind of hopefully have your pick of jobs. And you can kind of, to a certain extent, kind of demand a certain level of compensation. I would also tell any graduating resident, don't save money. Seek the counsel of an attorney when being presented with a contract. And if at all feasible, consider some type of contractual bonus that one could maybe put away to help purchase a home, or put away into a 529 account, et cetera.
Yeah. It's especially with the corporatization too. I mean, just think of the attorneys that are on the other side of that contract. And if you went at it trying to save and not pay somebody, it's almost like a losing battle before you get started, Brian. So that's great advice. I love that. And we talk about that a lot in real estate too. Surrounding yourself with the right people, especially the people who may have already done what you want to do, or who have become who you want to become. That's really important. talking about real estate, have you explored real estate investing? Is that something that interests you?
Frankly, I have not. One thing I will say is, and I will speak personally. I certainly don't want to speak for others. Sometimes as specialists, we can develop a myopic view. You kind of develop this tunnel vision and you're focused on the issue at hand. The task at hand is training. And then once you train, the task at hand is creating your career, fostering your career and gaining experience and getting your name out there and getting the cases under your belt, learning new techniques, embracing new technologies. And because of that myopic view, you kind of forget that there's a whole world outside of medicine that's out there. Mm-hmm. So, from personal experience, no, I have not kind of explored that. And then, you train, many of us get married, and then there's something called kids that think that you have a money tree in your backyard. So that also can kind of be a diversion away from investments like real estate.
Yeah. So outside of real estate, I know there's other opportunities that, kind of more along the lines of set and forget, whether it's, the 401s and those kind of things. Tell me a little bit about what you've been able to do and still keep the one thing. Yeah.
So obviously, I guess, put away and like, forget about. So the 401ks, I always mix them up, 457s or whatever, but, put the money away into that. And obviously the 529s, for the kids and, insurance policies that, provide you with a cash value over time, which allows you to basically lend money to yourself, rather than going to a bank, for cash.
Yeah. That permanent life insurance is a great way. And there are even ways that you can do the accelerated mortgage payment stuff too. So to eliminate the debt, the difference between the way, not only the interest that you're paying on that permanent life insurance is paying yourself, that dividend is paying you. So it's not even the rate that you're seeing because the interest is actually going to you. Yeah. And then, it's compounded differently. So there's compounded and then there's simple, right? And the two ways of that interest, you can actually leverage one to pay other things off faster. Yeah.
And that's Brett, you brought up an excellent point. The different mortgages, consider a 15-year mortgage as opposed to a 30-year mortgage. And so that's something else we've done.
Nice. It does hike up the payment. And those mortgages hurt my feelings when we're talking about rental properties because it kills the cash flow. But you do hit that equity. You hit at that equity a lot sooner.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and there's so many different things, so many different ways. I love the life insurance thing. But you got to be careful too, because there's different types of life insurance. So definitely, just like the advice that you said about, making sure that you have an attorney when you're signing a contract, just like you got to have the right insurance provider to help walk you through the different options and opportunities that are out there. I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's just it. You've got to have the right people around you to help walk you through those processes to see what's your goal? What are you trying to get? And make sure that the product or the service that you're getting aligns with the goal, right?
Yes. And listen, I love what I do. There are plenty of days when I feel like, okay, I what my late father-in-law referred to, I wished I had kiss my ass money, where I could say, you want me to go to this meeting tomorrow? Kiss my ass. I quit.
Yeah.
I'm not going. But it is important to, again, as I mentioned previously, you get this myopic view of things. I'm not an expert in financial management, so it would also behoove folks to consider getting a financial advisor and someone who is easily accessible, someone who is transparent. You don't want to find yourself a victim like, what happened with these Bernie Madoff victims. So get a financial advisor whose job is to take care of the financial aspect, make sure that you're on track to not only retire when you want to, but retire and live a life that you feel meets the standards that you and your spouse, you and your family want.
I was reading this book. It's called Discipline is Destiny. It's by Ryan Holiday. He's actually got several great books. In this book, Brian was saying that it mentioned what he called the FU money. It's like it doesn't exist. Like it actually doesn't exist. So we'll bring that back to your earlier line, more money, more problems, because you get to that point, you just got a whole nother layer of problems and a whole nother layer of people, and just there's the craziness and chaos. And ultimately it comes down to, our core values and what is it that we're seeking? What are we trying to find? Who are we trying to become? That's where that happiness is. And if we can find that path that allows us to do something we're excited about, whether it's medicine or, entrepreneurship or something, and still set this path of finding a way to separate our time from our money, that's that golden cross, that golden intersection to where this is going to work out. Trust the process, trust the system to get there. Do you, just a feeling that you have, Brian, and I know that you're not a financial advisor and, you've kept the one thing. Do you feel that you're on track to find that path to where you will be able to separate your time from your money?
Yes, I think that I am. It's certainly not, I'm not exactly where I want to be totally. I can see the goal. I can see the end point. I'm not in a situation where I'm completely freaked out and thinking, okay, wow, I'm in big trouble. It's not easy. You're surrounded by a lot of people who, many of them may come from money. I certainly didn't. And so you have to resist the temptation of going out and getting the latest shiny car, a McMansion. I reflect on my late father-in-law. This guy, he lived well below his means. And that's where he was coming from when he said, look, you got to find yourself in a situation where you have kiss my ass money. And that's the way to do it. Pay yourself first, and then deal with everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Drawing that line to, again, it sounds like the way that he was living was finding that point of not having to have things in order to make him happy or to have that happiness. It's interesting. It reminded me of a story, Brian. I was my wife's grandfather. He's passed as well. He did very well for himself. He was an entrepreneur, was in the grocery business, and later in his life, he had lived in Florida. We always used to go to Florida and to visit with him. And he, even at that point in his life, Brian, we went out to eat and he was still so conservative, like that penny pincher. He didn't have to worry about money, right? And we're at this restaurant and it was there. Obviously, we're there before like the specials are on, right? You had to be at a certain spot in this restaurant in order to get the hour specials or whatever. We literally got up, moved, went downstairs so that we could have these specials. And we're talking like $1, $1 or $2 or something like this.
That sounds like my late father-in-law.
Yeah. And had not had a worry about money at all, but you get it instilled in you. It's a perspective. Once you get there, you don't really fall away from it, right?
Yes. Yeah. And, it's same story. I mean, I'm wondering if we're talking about the same person, this guy, his wallet, he held it together with a rubber band. Shoes looked like they were completely run over. And many of his colleagues and people in his social circles who had all the flashy stuff and who looked like they were extremely affluent, when push came to shove, sometimes their children would go to my father-in-law asking for financial assistance. Yeah.
Reminds me also of another great book. It's called The Millionaire Next Door. And it was definitely a perspective shift for me. So if any of the listeners haven't read that, it's a great read, and it's just this perspective change and this realization of what you see around you and how that makes you feel and how you feel about money. And really, when you step back and look at it, I mean, so many of the millionaires that we don't even know they're millionaires because they live conservatively, right? They're driving F-150s that are, 10 years old or something. Yes. Hey, I got one last question for you, Brian. I know you're super busy. If you could keep the one thing, and there was a way that you could invest in real estate and it wouldn't require you to do anything differently in your life, what's one asset class or one type of real estate that kind of pops into your mind?
Well, geez, I mean, I'm so naive to all that is available. I quite frankly wouldn't know. I wouldn't know where to. There's definitely significant potential return on real estate. But I quite frankly wouldn't know where to
start.
Yeah. For example, would you invest in rentals? Would you invest, quite frankly, in Section 8 housing? Unless the government shuts down, which it seems like that's a more frequent possibility with this current toxic environment. But that payment is guaranteed. I mean, it's going to show up on time. Yeah, it's going to show up as scheduled. Do you invest in office buildings or some new structures being built? For example, here, the Four Seasons Hotel, it was built a few years back, and they were seeking folks to invest in it and purchase units, and they're having trouble with occupancy. So that would have, was billed as, hey, look, this is only going to appreciate, and they are still having trouble with occupancy for that structure. Not only the residential side, but even, having folks coming in and just using the hotel part of it. So where do you start?
Great question. Finding something that does intrigue you, get you a little bit excited. I think that's a great place to start. And if it's somewhere where you've got, or somebody that's doing it and doing it with results, given proven results, that's going to expedite your learning process as well too. So again, just like everything else, surrounding yourself with the right people. It's got to be something that does excite you a little bit. It can't be like, pulling your fingernail off. You think about, doing real estate or something. If you find that one path storage, syndications, multifamilies, hotels, land, there's so many of these different things, but find that one little thing that does kind of wait, what is that? And I want to figure out a little bit about this. The Section 8 thing is very interesting. I've got a little bit of experience in the Section 8. Even though it is federal money, it is dispersed to the local municipalities to kind of take that on. And it once it comes, it's good. But there's still that startup kind of piece where you're leaning on a smaller municipality to kind of get it. And that's where the rough piece, because they could be broken, but the money could be there. If the system's broken, then the money doesn't get dispersed. That's a whole nother show, man, because I think that there's so much more to offer the tenants in those scenarios, as opposed to just free money. How can we help them and lift them, help them grow, as opposed to just giving them free money all the time? But as a landlord, that gets difficult too, because then it's a other side of the table. But I could go off on that one for hours. To wrap this one up, man, I think that never shut it out of your mind. Again, you would never have to invest in real estate, but I always want to keep everybody's eyes open to it and ears open to it, because whether or not you know it, it's around you already. There's people around you that could help you get to where you're going, or help you even understand where you may want to go as well too. So I just encourage you to keep that open, and there's always a solution too. You can find what you're looking for, and it doesn't have to be in the box, somebody else's box, or somebody else's deal. There's a solution out there for you that would tie directly to your path and your experiences.
Got it. Well, you have my contact information. So if you have any, introductory information that you would be willing to provide, I'd certainly be interested in at least looking at it.
I always think it's great. So just staying focused. Absolutely. If you can find that way to keep the one thing, and it sounds like to me, your late father-in-law has got you directed into the right perspective on how to maintain conservatively, and then introduce that piece where that time is separated from your money. That money is separated from your time. That's the elevator. So I will definitely give that to you. I know you got to run, man. Super busy. Brian, thank you so much for your time today.
Absolutely, Brett. You have a wonderful afternoon.
You too.
All right, thank you.
It was a fun conversation with Dr. Pettiford here today. Here are some notes I jotted down. More money doesn't fix financial problems. Strategy does. Lifestyle creep is real. Don't fall into the trap of keeping up with other doctors. Real estate and investing don't have to take over your life. Find what excites you and start small. If this episode got you thinking about your financial future, be sure to subscribe and keep learning. This is the Real Estate Mogul, MD.